They here should be here. Good. Okay. I forwarded that table to courtesy. I'm going to forward you the same courtesy. Anything else you wish to present before we go to the closing argument?
No, Your Honor, we are ready to begin with the closing
I
statement.
just wanted to ask. Okay. Thank you. In that case, shall we proceed to closing argument?
Yes, Your Honor. May I set up the court for the use of the demonstrator?
You may, and as always, whoever is involved wishes to, I know there's no objection, but wish to.
I agree.
Thank you very much.
May I approach the bench and retrieve evidence too?
Absolutely. It's out there so that it's readily available to both sides, either side.
May it please the court?
You may.
Opposing counsel. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this is a case about a passive parent. About a parent that was more concerned about being a friend than a mentor. You heard how Hayden Duran ignored all the warning signs that his daughter, Jessie Duran, had violent tendencies. And because Hayden Duran ignored those warning signs, Sydney Park tragically lost her life on August 18th, 2010. And because of that, Andy Park will never celebrate another birthday with Sydney. We'll never watch Sydney graduate from high school, and we'll never be there when Sydney walks down the aisle in her gown on her wedding day. And the reason that this happened is because Hayden Duran failed to see that Jessie had an obsession with guns. That this obsession was fueled by violent video games, and that Jessie was a violent kid. And because Hayden Duran failed to see those signs, Sydney lost her life. Now, as the plaintiff, we're pursuing the lawsuit of negligent parental supervision. And what that means is that we have the burden to prove to you by a preponderance of the evidence, meaning that it is more likely than not that Hayden Duran's negligent parental supervision was the death, or was the cause of Sydney Park's death. Now, what this means for the law is that the parent or guardian of a minor child knew or should have known of the need to prevent the child from creating an unreasonable risk of bodily harm to another child. That the parent failed to reasonably control their child. If the child acted in a way that was negligent, reckless, or intentional. That a third party suffered harm. And that this harm was the direct and proximate result of the actions of that person. Now, in today's case, we must prove to each one of these elements by preponderance of evidence. But the fourth element, that a third party suffered harm, is not in contest in today's case. Because both sides agree that Sydney Park tragically lost her life that day. But when we look at the facts of today's case, and we look at how they apply to each one of these elements, it will be clear that we have met our burden. Foremost, that the parent of a minor child knew or should have known of the need to prevent the child from creating an unreasonable risk of bodily harm. Every parent knows that it's their duty to control that child, that they have a responsibility to make sure that that child does not harm another person. But Hayden Duran specifically knew about this, because Hayden Duran was worried about Jessie's behavior. In fact, Hayden Duran was so worried that Hayden Duran wrote an email to a friend specifically stating that she was worried. Ladies and gentlemen, this person, Hayden Duran, should have also known, because Danny Brooks, the babysitter, told Hayden on multiple occasions about Jessie's bad behavior. But as Danny Brooks said, Hayden Duran knows her child. So the first point is not in contention. That the parent failed to exercise reasonable control over the child. I want you to think back to what you heard about August 18th, 2010. How you heard that Hayden Duran supposedly talked to her child about the dangers of violent video, or the dangers of real guns. That's what Jessie said. That Hayden told you about that. Now what that means, ladies and gentlemen, is that Jessie shouldn't have been playing with real guns. But what happened on August 18th, 2010? Just after Hayden Duran left to go to work, the first thing Jesse did was go play with a real gun. When a parent tells their child not to do something, and then as soon as that parent leaves, the child does the exact thing the parent just instructed the child not to do, that is the very definition of the parent failed to exercise reasonable control over the child. And because of that, the second point has also been met. If the child acted in a way that was negligent, reckless, or intentional, should also be little surprise. Because we heard from Jules Sebastian, the forensic investigator, that told you that Jesse Duran's fingerprints, they weren't just on the barrel of the gun. They weren't just on the handle of the gun. They were on the shell casing of the bullet that was used to kill Sidney Park. And what that means is that Jesse Duran used her hand to push the bullet into the cylinder. She closed that cylinder, and when she took aim at Sidney Park, she knew that the gun was going to go off because there was a bullet in there. Now, even if you don't think that it was intentional, even if you think that it might just be reckless, because to take a gun and point it at another human being and pull the trigger is at the very least negligent. And because of that, we have met the third point. Now, the fifth point is that the harm to the third party was the direct and proximate result of the acts or omissions of both the minor child and of the defendant. And what this deals with is the foreseeability of the events that took place on August 18th, 2010. Whether or not Hayden Duran could have seen what was going to happen on August 18th, 2010. Now, it should be fairly clear that Hayden Duran could have foreseen it, because Sidney Park was drawing pictures of shooting another kid and leaving him around the house. Danny Brooks told you, Sidney Park on multiple occasions, or Jesse Duran on multiple occasions, was heard saying, "Bang, Sidney, you're dead." And when Hayden Duran was specifically told about this, Hayden Duran did nothing. It should be very clear that Hayden Duran saw this action coming. If we look back one more time to the email, but I've also been hearing things from other parents about Jesse pointing sticks at kids and saying things like, "Bang, you're dead." This specifically states that Hayden Duran was aware of Jesse's violent tendencies. And as a parent, if you're aware of Jesse's violent tendencies, it is your duty to make sure that that child doesn't harm another individual. You heard from Dr. Campbell Solo that everything I just said was psychiatrically proven, like it was scientifically proven that Hayden Duran should have known about this. Now, as the defense would like you to believe that it's somehow Andy Park's fault because Andy Park didn't store the gun properly, that Andy Park had a gun in her home, and that the bullets may have been accessible. But ladies and gentlemen, what you did here was that Andy Park bought the most reputable safe that she could find. That she always kept that gun unloaded and in that safe. That those bullets were stored in a separate location. And that she never told her daughter about the gun or the combination to the safe. And you heard from the defense's own witness that these were all commendable acts. So when you think about the facts in today's case and how it applies to the law, it's very clear that Hayden Duran was a passive parent. And because of Hayden Duran's lack of control over Jesse Duran, Sidney Park lost her life. And because Sidney Park lost her life on that tragic incident on August 18, 2010, you must find Hayden Duran liable. Thank you.